whatever today is, the 28th of August. Please call the roll.
Mr. Dahl?
Here.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Here.
Mr. Schroyer?
Here.
Megan Sparks?
Here.
Dr. Rohr?
Here, please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. There's none on there, right?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a motion for approval of the agenda as presented.
You got it?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Schroyer?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Next, introduction of our new administrator, who is so excited to be here.
Testing, there we go. Well, good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce to you formally to both the board and our community our new Director of Special Education, Miss Becky Furby, who will be making a couple remarks here in just a minute. Becky officially joined our team on August 1st, but she's been hard at work since mid-July. She's made an immediate and positive impact on our central office leadership team. She's an experienced and successful educator for over 29 years. She brings expertise and a deep skill set to the district in all aspects of special education. In the short period of time that she's been working with our team, she's demonstrated strong leadership skills. She's fully embraced our strategic plan, and she shows a deep commitment to the academic success of all students, not just special needs students. Becky began her career as an intervention specialist in 1995 and served in that capacity until 2013. During this period of time, Becky worked for the Tuscarawas County Board of Development, New Philadelphia Schools, and the Dover Schools. In August of 2013, she became the Director of Pupil Services for Brooklyn City Schools in Brooklyn, Ohio. And from 2016 to 2018, she served in that same role for the Talmadge City School District. Most recently, Ms. Furby has served as the Director of Student Services for the Euclid City Schools from 2020 until she joined our team here in Centerville. She arrived with great enthusiasm, and as I stated earlier, she's already made a very positive impact on both the students and the staff of this district. So without further ado, I introduce to you Becky.
Thank you, stop. Board, I am super excited to be here. I do want you to know that from my first interview, which was video, which they so thankfully allowed me to do virtually because I could not make it here from Euclid. From that first interview, I knew that this is where I wanted to be. And then from the very intensive 5-hour interview process that I went through, everything has been amazing. You have an amazing administrative team here. I'm so excited to work with this group. And I've already met with some parents. I've been in the buildings. I tell the staff that I get down and dirty, which means I'm in the buildings helping with kids, helping support students and the staff to try to make their jobs easier. So I just want to say what an amazing district and experience I've had so far in Centerville, and I am so excited to be here, and I thank you so much for the opportunity to be the Director of Special Education here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Welcome. Next on the agenda is public participation. We certainly encourage public participation. Seeing that no one has signed up tonight, we will go on to the next item on the agenda, which is Board Administrative Reports. There is no legislative report tonight. I got that information earlier. So next will be Student Board Reps.
Okay, so so this Friday during 4th and 5th lunch at the high school, we'll be doing candy and comments. And this is something we've done in the past as board reps, where basically we have like a form for students to give their input on different, whatever they want about the school, and they get candy as like a treat, because who doesn't like candy? And yeah, our report.
Great job. Next on the agenda is the 23-24 school year update by Mr. Wesney.
So good evening. Welcome everyone. So tonight we have several different variety of presentations from some of our departments tonight, but you'll see a common theme as we go through some of our presentations. A lot of it has to do with obviously getting the school year started, being back to school, and really talking about our goals and strategic plan moving forward. So even last week, I made a comment at the work session that I wanted to really kind of talk about the first 9 days of school, but the reality of it is I'm going to probably talk about the first month of school. So maybe. Can you advance me forward, Shane? Thank you. So in addition to 9 days, I wanted to reflect really back to August the 1st. Most of the central office team had the opportunity to spend half the day at the Montgomery County Educational Service Center, where we had the opportunity to meet with other administrators across the county, really just in a way to prep for the start of the school year and finalize some of our planning. Later that week, we met with our principals and support staff, had a chance to meet with them to finalize our plans to kick off the school year, which is always good. It allows us that opportunity. We don't always have the opportunity to meet with support staff across the district, but allows us to kind of share our expectations and our goals with our administrative team. The following week was New Teacher Academy, and I know Dan Tarpey has done a great job in his role as the Assistant Superintendent and HR Director talking about New Teacher Academy. It's obviously an important part of our process with new staff. We had 38 staff come in, but it's more importantly than having the staff come in, it's an opportunity for them to meet their peers, meet the administrative team, and really for an opportunity for us to share with them our expectations and what we think is important moving forward in the classroom. So it was a great week, a great opportunity to share that with our new teachers. The following week was the first week of school. We had an opening staff meeting. About 1,000 of our staff members were in the Performing Arts Center. And then we kicked off the week with our K-12 students who returned on August the 16th. And then last week, as you know, preschool started on August the 23rd. So in the next slide, we're excited about this. We welcomed back 8,370 students enrolled as of today. That's about 131 more students than last year. This is a number that I've talked about a lot, and we look at this number on a daily basis. There's not a day that's gone by that we don't look up and see how many people have enrolled or withdrawn from the district. And this number fluctuates. It's a number that'll change. It'll go up and down. When a student withdraws over the summer, it's not an official withdrawal until that student actually enrolls into another district. So we continue to look at the numbers. We're excited about the numbers that we have, and we'll continue to look at that. And things will probably start to settle down later on, about mid-September, where that number will start to slow down and not change as much. Staffing update, Mr. Tarpey again has talked a lot about staffing, 180 total staff changes across the district. He does a great job in managing all those changes. Obviously, we talked about one of those changes tonight, which is the addition of our special education director to help with student services, which has been a great find for us to bring Becky Furby onto the team to be a part of this group. As I mentioned, 38 new certificated staff attended and participated in New Teacher Academy. Now that's 38 staff. Just to share, it's not necessarily replacing every staff member or new positions. The 38 staff is replacing retired and teachers who have resigned or maybe have moved on to other jobs, other positions, or maybe even other districts. We take a strong look at all those positions every year and make decisions on what the best need is for the district. And sometimes we make decisions and not replace certain positions depending on the need for the district. So it's always important for us to take a look at that number and really understand what that number means. For our opening staff day, it was a day in which I took a lot of time really to review our mission and our vision along with our strategic plan. This year I really focused on the vision of the district. The vision of creating a collaborative learning environment that responds to the needs of each learner, fosters growth, and prepares individuals to be responsible, community-minded citizens of our society. So looking forward, I'll talk a little bit more about why that mission and vision is so important for us. Typically, we take some time to celebrate the successes that take place across the district. One of those reasons to celebrate I've already mentioned, and that's the enrollment of our students. I talked a little bit about the portrait of an elk. You'll hear a little bit more about that tonight, which is part of our strategic plan. We always talk about student accomplishments, 347 students inducted to the National Honor Society. We had 7 juniors who had a perfect score on the ACT. So just a few things to throw out. And it's important to share about our extracurricular activities in athletics. It's an important part of the overall development, growth of our students to be able to participate in programs. A lot of our programs outside the school day compete on a state and national level and is a great experience for our students. We talked about Character Strong and talked about the opportunity that we focused on last year in developing a master facilities committee to look at the work that needs to take place in our buildings. So again, just a few items that we looked at celebrating. I always talk about part of the celebration is our public entities and the partnerships that we have with our public entities, with our police and fire and the parks, has always been a strong relationship, and we appreciate their support and what they do for us each and every day. Goals, we talked a lot about goals for the school year. We presented levy information or facts about the levy. You'll hear more about the facts in the levy campaign through Laura Sauber this evening. She'll follow this presentation. And more importantly, we spent a lot of time talking about our purpose and our why. What is our why? What is our purpose? Why do we want to be a part of Centerville City Schools? And I've shared that, and I've shared this with a lot of people. My why is the 8,300 some kids we have in the district. And it's exciting to bring those students back and get those kids back into our buildings and meeting their teachers and into an educational setting for them to learn and start the learning process for the school year. In addition to that, we always talk about school safety. I can't really let a school meeting go by without mentioning school safety. It's important for all of us. It was a good way for me just to remind the staff about where we are with some of our projects that Mr. Kogel has talked about, with some of the grant money that we received in making or creating or having the opportunity to replace some of our exterior doors, and we're creating a lock system that's a remote digital system that I think will be beneficial for everyone. But again, just a great opportunity to remind staff that it's everyone's responsibility to keep students safe. I have to mention, we have, another thing that we celebrate is our partnership with Centerville Safe. Centerville Safe will have its first safety meeting series, seminar series next week on September the 5th. So if you're interested, please join us next week. It's a great opportunity to learn some of the safety programs that we promote with our school resource officers, to our staff, to our parents, and to the community. The strategic plan I talked about briefly earlier. There's 9 core principles that focuses on, and one of those core principles, I should say, there's 9 core principles, and one that I really emphasized in our staff meeting, opening day staff meeting, was the one that focuses on sustaining growth, forward thinking, and having a fiscally responsible plan. Obviously, that's important for our district moving forward. That ties into our goals for the school year, providing educational programs that meet the needs of all of our students, meeting the overall health and wellness needs of students, and providing more staff and counseling to make sure our students stay safe and secure within our buildings and our schools. And to continue on, preparing students for a rapidly changing world. This is really about the portrait of the elk. You got a little bit of that information last week. I think Mr. Trell is going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. But it's part of our strategic plan and focusing on different key characteristics that we want our students to have once they graduate from Centerville City Schools or Centerville High School. Supporting college and career pathways to build future workforce. Again, many conversations throughout the summer. We have a grant opportunity where we're waiting patiently on the results of the grant. Give us the opportunity to expand an allied health program, a nursing program here at Centerville High School. along with a computer science program. So two great areas for our students, great opportunities that will help the workforce and hopefully the workforce here in the Centerville, Washington Township, Dayton area. Attract and retain high-quality staff. We talk about that regularly, and Dan's talked about that in his recruitment of staff in his work, and then implementing facility maintenance and renovation projects across the district. So again, we're excited. It's been a great start so far. We always have a couple challenges at the beginning of the year, whether it's student schedules, sometimes bus routes. When you have 8,300 students coming back in, sometimes the routes change, sometimes they get delayed. So we worked through a lot of those changes over the last couple days, and really feels like we're now into a solid routine and off to a great start. So we are looking forward to an awesome school year, and that concludes my report tonight.
John, do you know where and what time the Centerville State meeting is in September?
Yeah, September the 5th, here at Centerville High School at 7 o'clock. Yeah, so South Unit. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I have a few items on my agenda for this evening. We're going to talk about the property reappraisal that's happening throughout Montgomery County right now. And with that, I'm going to talk and remind everyone about what House Bill 920 is and how that impacts us and our revenue throughout in our district. Then I want to give you an update on the Auditor of State levy frequently asked questions that have now become final from the Auditor of State's office. And we'll end things with just a few FAQs about the levy that we have on the ballot in November. So first, just to talk a little bit about, well, probably a lot, actually, about the property reappraisal in House Bill 920. So first, I think it's important that we know what it is. So every 6 years, every county in Ohio, it's on a cycle, it's on a rotation. Every county goes through a full reappraisal. A full reappraisal is, the process for that is auditors will hire a firm, or they'll do it in-house, depending on the county. But they go out and they physically put eyes on every property. So they're actually going out to every single property and visiting everywhere to do an appraisal of that property. We had that done in 2020. So that was our 6-year property reappraisal. Now in 2023, we are going through what's called a triennial update. And so a triennial update is not as in-depth as the full reappraisal. It's actually a market review. So they take a look at sales data, and they look at each neighborhood, and they look at comparable sales within your neighborhood for the 3-year period, and they adjust values according to sales that have been happening. So that's just a little bit about what the reappraisal process is. And again, this is happening on a continuous cycle throughout all of Ohio, and it's our turn right now for the triennial update. The Montgomery County Auditor, they have a dedicated page on their website for the reappraisal process, and honestly, it's great. There is so much good information out there to look at, and I've put that web address here. And I've also, we're going to take about a minute and a half because I'd like for you to hear the video that they've created regarding the reappraisal.
The Montgomery County Auditor's Office is conducting the state-required triennial update of property values. We are adjusting values based on recent sales in your neighborhood. Over the past 3 years, Montgomery County's real estate market has been off the charts, and now our property values are catching up to the rising home prices seen across the state and country. The state-mandated increase in home values reflects growth in the housing market at a rate we've never seen before. As a result of these record-high sales prices, property owners should expect to see record-setting property value increases with this triennial update. We know that many property owners are concerned about how rising home values will impact property taxes. While it's true that many property owners will see an increase in their taxes, you should know that taxes will not increase at nearly the same rate as values. In Montgomery County, we don't just value properties, we value fairness. This summer, we will be mailing out notices of new values to all property owners. If you disagree with your property value, we welcome you to meet with us to discuss your property in detail. If you would like to schedule a Zoom or telephone call with one of our appraisers, please visit our website, ncreval.org, to find a convenient time for you. To look up your property's new value or to learn more, please visit ncreval.org.
So you're going to hear me probably repeat several of those things as I go through and finish up here talking about property reappraisal. And again, that's countywide. So how is Centerville City Schools property value increasing? And I've tried to format this presentation in terms of the questions that I'm hearing, trying to anticipate the questions that you have, and trying to address those things. So these are tentative value increases. This process will not be finalized until December because, as you heard in the video, they're encouraging people, if they have questions about their value, to contact the auditor's office to talk about their individual values. So they will tweak and adjust things over the next couple of months. But the tentative residential value increase for Centerville City Schools is 32.2%. Commercial value increase is tentatively set for 23.1%. And so the average across the district is 30.7%, record high. That is probably one of the highest reappraisals that we've seen. And again, I won't have any final numbers until we get to December, but I expect, since they've released these numbers, it's going to be in the neighborhood of a 30% increase. So with a 30.7% increase in property value, does that mean the district is going to collect 30.7% more property tax revenue? The simple answer to that is no. No, we will not. It's not a one-to-one relationship in terms of property value going up and tax revenue. It doesn't happen that way. And the reason for that, we're going to talk a little more in depth, is House Bill 920, because of the way the tax rates are lowered to ensure that no additional taxes are generated. However, will we as a district receive additional revenue from an increase in property value? And the answer to that is yes. So there's two sources of additional revenue that we receive. The first is from inside millage. So every taxpayer is assessed. This is an unvoted portion written into law of taxes. Every taxpayer is assessed 10 mills first and foremost, and it's a full 10 mills always on whatever their property value is. So if your value goes up 10%, what you pay on the inside millage is going up proportionately to your value increase. Again, this is only on the inside millage. Of those 10 mills, we receive 5.25 mills of that. The rest of those 10 mills are proportioned out to other entities. The county keeps a portion of that. Washington Township General Fund keeps a portion of that. And then depending on whether you live in the city or in the township, part of it goes to Washington Township for the roads, and the other part goes to the city. And so there are other public entities that are receiving a portion of that 10 inside mills. The other place that we receive new money is on new construction. And so when a new home comes online, that is additional revenue for us that we receive. So, I want to make sure to note that we factor this in to our financial projections. And so we knew that there was going to be a large increase coming in property value in the May 5-year forecast that we had you approve back in May and submitted to the Ohio Department of Education. It did factor in the large reappraisal, and it factored in additional revenue because of that. So then what happens during reappraisal with the voted levies? Okay, so we talked about inside millage. That is a one-to-one direct relationship. But the majority of our revenue comes from the voted levies that have been passed over time throughout the years. So House Bill 920 is going to impact every one of those voted levies when property value increases due to reappraisal. House Bill 920 is an Ohio law that was enacted in 1976, and it protects the taxpayers from experiencing large increases in their tax bills during reappraisal years. And so it's important to understand that there's voted mills and there's effective mills. The voted mills are exactly that. It's what was put on the ballot and was voted on at the time that the issue was on the ballot. The effective mills is what you're paying today on that particular levy, and I have a couple of examples of that here next. You've seen the up and down arrowed graph, the inverse relationship between the effective millage and the property value. And so just a reminder, when property values go up, House Bill 920 kicks in and it reduces the effective rate of all the voted levies. And so to give you a couple of examples, in 1985, the community passed a 4.5 mil levy that today is being collected at 1.85 mils. So all of the reappraisals that have happened since 1985, the county auditor has reduced the effective rate of those levies so that today it's at 1.85. And then I wanted you to have a more recent example. So the 2019 levy that was passed, the operating levy portion of that was 5.9 voted mills. Today that is currently being collected at 5.16. Now with the reappraisal, these numbers are going to be even lower. So when that reappraisal kicks in, the amount that's collected next calendar year is going to be much lower than 1.85 and 5.16 on those two levies. Like I said, I pulled a couple of examples just to make sure you understand that every time there's a reappraisal that happens and that value goes up, the effective rate is going down.
Laura, in your two examples, and earlier you mentioned that the reappraisal is going to be around 30%. Is there a relationship between how much the effective rate goes down in regard to how much the property values go up? In other words, it's going up 30%. Will the 1.85 be reduced by 30%?
So that's an auditor function, to set those rates. Honestly, I've not done the math or asked that question, but that's a great question, and I'll make sure to find out the answer to that.
Well, I think members of the public should know, not only the recent ones, but even the older ones like you've demonstrated, will go down, so we don't collect any more money than what we were able to collect back in 1985.
Yes.
So what proportion is, we'll have to find out.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
So another piece that I think is important that we talk about is the reappraisal going to impact each taxpayer the same? Okay, so the quick answer to that is no. It's not going to affect each taxpayer the same. It's going to depend on how much your personal home value goes up. Okay, so whatever your value goes up to, that is the amount that you will pay taxes on. So if you have a 10% increase or a 40% increase or the average 30% increase, you're going to pay taxes on whatever your home is valued at. So what the reappraisal process is doing is it's kind of shifting the share around. And so if one neighborhood, if the homes are increasing in value more than the neighborhood beside it, those individuals are going to pay a higher share of the voted levies. So let's go through a scenario. Let's talk about an example. So again, we've heard that the tentative value for Centerville is 30.7% or 32% across the district for the residential property. The auditor is going to set the effective rate for all of the levies on that 32% or 32.2%. It's going to use the average. So every person paying taxes on their home is going to pay the same effective rate no matter where they live, okay, on the levies. So if you're taxpayer A and your value goes up 45%, it's higher than the average. So you're going to take on a little more of that tax burden maybe than the neighborhood beside you. If you're taxpayer B and you go up 32%, that's right at the average, you're likely not going to see too much of an increase. Aside from inside millage, inside millage is separate, but on those voted levies, your tax bill is going to stay real close to the same. If you're taxpayer C and your value goes up only 15%, you're paying less on those voted levies than what you paid the year before. Because again, it's redistributing the taxes according to what the neighborhood values are being set at. So on the auditor's website, and you heard in that video that we listened to, that it is estimated that throughout the county, most people are going to see a 4 to 6% increase due to the reappraisal, and the majority of that is due to the inside millage.
Laura, I'm sorry, before you go on, can we go back to the inside millage for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Centerville receives 5 1/4 inside mills. Do you know what that equates to in our annual revenue?
Annual revenue, no. I can tell you that the increase, based on a 30% increase, is an additional around $3 million or $3.4 million in additional revenue, and we have that built into the projections
built in, okay.
in the 5-year forecast, yes.
So when people see the 32%, that's really only getting us a little over $3 million, which is not
Right.
small, but in the
Correct.
scheme of our overall budget,
Yes,
it is not by any means 32%.
that's right.
Okay.
Yes.
And also, just to rephrase, the inside millage, we have no control over.
No.
None. So
No.
that's got, we're not voting on that.
No.
It's not levy. So that inside millage is going up, of which we have no control.
That's correct.
All right.
That is all one-to-one relationship with the
Right.
value.
Right. The other thing to know, I think, is that when we get these reappraisals, a lot of people will equate that of what I could sell my house for. Typically, the two don't match, correct?
Not well. That's
Typically.
the purpose of the reappraisal process, especially the triennial update. They're looking at sale data, so they actually are looking at the sale prices of
Right.
what the homes are selling for. It's never exactly the same,
Right.
no, but it is trying to catch up to what the market is
Right.
doing, and so it's trying to reset your home value according to the county auditor to what the market trends are. So it's not going to be exact to your
Right.
point, but it is trying to catch up to the market.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to transition to the next topic unless you have more questions about reappraisal.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The reappraisals that people are looking at now will go into effect next year, correct?
Yes.
How is the levy that we put on, or want to put on the ballot, going to be affected by those appraisals next year?
I have that covered
Okay.
in our slides coming up.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right.
I just want to make sure we get that out.
Yes, definitely. That is a part of the Centerville FAQs that I put together. So next, I want to talk a little bit about the auditor estate levy guidance or levy frequently asked questions that have really been a conversation piece in most schools. More so if you have a levy on the ballot, but it's been really a hot topic for schools for the last probably 2 years. So first of all, what is it? Ohio Revised Code 9.03 is a part of the code that spells out what district officials are allowed to do and not allowed to do regarding a levy campaign. There are more sections that we could reference, but this is the main piece of the code that talks about that. There's an Ohio school district that had a superintendent and board members that were charged with criminal charges from a 2019 levy campaign for misusing public funds throughout the campaign. And so because of this and because of the publicity from this, the Auditor of State's Office began working on guidance for school districts and what are we allowed to do and what are we not allowed to do as district officials. And the majority of us in this room are district officials, including board members, every portion of our staff. We're all district officials. And so this document, it's 22 pages long. It's great reading. I've provided it to all of you, so I encourage you to read it. But one of the pieces that I find interesting through all the webinars and things that I've been listening to over the last few weeks is the Auditor of State's Office and legal counsel. They're advising us as district officials to talk to you about it, to educate the board, to educate the staff members. Mr. Wesney mentioned that he talked about that at opening day. He talked about that intentionally so that district employees are aware of what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. And so we're being encouraged to share with the board, with the staff, and with the community about what we're allowed to do. And we have basically summed the 22 pages up into 4 points. So the first one is what we are allowed to do is we can provide neutral, accurate, and factual information at any time. All of us. At any time of the day, night, weekends, it doesn't matter. We can always provide neutral, factual, accurate information. We also, as district officials, we can engage in campaign activity while we're not being compensated by the district and at our own expense. So it's kind of this concept of on your own time, on your own dime. We have a First Amendment right as individuals. We can advocate for or against a levy campaign on our own time while we're not being compensated. The guidance talks specifically about board members. You as board members are being compensated right now during this meeting. You're only being compensated during board meetings. So you have a lot of flexibility to advocate for or against a levy campaign. Other district officials are worked irregular hours, and there's a lot of question about when we're on the clock and when we're not on the clock. And so there's a lot of conversation around that. One of the things that we're not allowed to do is we cannot use any district resources to advocate for or against the levy. We can't use our bulk rate postage. We can't use our email. We can't send flyers home with kids that either advocate for or against the levy. We can send factual information. We can put things in the district newsletter. We can talk to you at the board meeting. There are things that we can do, but we cannot use our district resources to advocate for or against. And then the last point is kind of the converse of when we can advocate for or against a levy. We cannot advocate for or against a levy while we're being compensated. So at this board meeting, there's not going to be any conversation about voting for or voting against the levy by any district officials. Any questions about that?
For example, the information that you have provided in these documents would all be factual information that the board and the district could put out in publications.
Yes.
Right, because it's all factual. Here's what it is. Here's our problem. Those
Yes.
type of things are fine.
Yes. And again, we're encouraged to train
Right.
and to provide guidance to all of our employees. And so that's what we're doing tonight. One of the interesting examples, and again, this document, it's out on the auditor's website. It's right at the top of the banner. It's one of the very first things to click on. It gives the example of at a Friday night football game. And it talks about how the football coach cannot wear a t-shirt or a button or anything that is in support of or in opposition to the levy, because they're on the clock. They're at the football game, right? They're coaching, that is what they're hired to do, and so those are their duties. However, I, as the treasurer, am not required to be at the football game, and so I could wear either something for or opposed to a levy, a button or a t-shirt or something like that. So the document's good. It gives a lot of interesting examples. And, there's still some gray areas, obviously. There always is with people who work irregular hours. But it is some good guidance. So
I've read through that document you gave us. And just think about this. Like you said, it's been in conversation for a number of years. What happened to the other school district sort of brought really bright lights on it. But that was in 2019. It took them at least 3 years and 22 pages to give you any kind of information. Just shows you how complicated it really is.
it is. It really is. The first draft of this guidance, they were talking about trying to release it back in January of 2022. And I've seen a couple of versions of it, but it's been a draft. Every time it's been a draft. And so finally they took that draft stamp off, and the guidance now is the guidance. So yes, it's taken a long time.
And good for the auditor. I mean, he got input from people from all different walks of life in regard to being involved in schools.
Yes.
So it's a good thing they did that, because the draft would have been horrific until it got refined more.
Yes. So moving on to things, Centerville specific levy, frequently asked questions. And I am going to start with a disclaimer that the information being presented here is merely factual. District personnel are not allowed to advocate for or against the passage of a levy during times in which they are being compensated by the district. So we have a combination levy on the ballot on November 7th, 2023. The combination of that is 5.4 mils for operating expenses and a 0.5 mil portion for permanent improvement expenses. This levy has been certified by the county auditor to generate $12.9 million per year in additional revenue. The breakdown of that is about $11.8 million to go to the day-to-day operations for operating expenses and $1.1 million per year for permanent improvements. The levy is going to cost approximately $17 per month per $100,000 of home value as appraised by the county auditor. And so, John, to answer the question that you had, so will the property reappraisal change the amount the district would receive from the November 7th ballot issue? The answer to that is no. The auditor has certified to us based on current valuation, our valuation today, and that is the $12.9 million in revenue. The levy request would be immediately rolled back because of House Bill 920 in 2024 to still generate the $12.9 million. So all the things we talked about with the reappraisal and the effective rate versus the voted rate, all of that would kick in. House Bill 920 would kick in and immediately roll the effective rate down so that we would collect the $12.9 million on that levy.
So even the first time it's collected in January, it's not going to be 5.9.
No. Nope. It will generate $12.9 million with whatever the value is. Whether it ends up at 30.7% or 31% or 30% or whatever that final value is, they will set the effective rate on this if it's passed and every other levy to generate the amounts that it's originally set to generate. We do not have an issue number yet. I've been waiting for that, and so as soon as we receive the issue number, I will communicate that out to you so that you know.
Laura, you said that the cost would be $17 per month for 100,000 roughly.
Mm-hmm.
With the rollback, will that be less than that come January?
No.
100,000?
Well, maybe if you were taxpayer C and your value only went up 15%, maybe.
Paying less than.
Right. But that it will be based on the value at the time of whatever your home value is with the reappraisal process, that it would go through and assign that effective rate to your specific value.
Would people be paying more than $17?
If their value went up more than the average.
That $17 is an average.
It's the average, yes. Mm-hmm.
It's not set in stone because every property.
Correct. Every property will have its own value, yes. But the levy will only generate $12.9 million regardless of what happens to value. Okay, yeah, we have an FAQ, and we can bring that next month we plan to do this the next couple of months of bringing a few different FAQs from our website, so we can bring the calculation piece and make sure that we're educating on that.
And some examples.
Sure, absolutely. Any other questions this evening?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There'll be a lot more questions, I'm sure, as we get closer to this, so, yeah.
This is just another example of how complicated school finance is. More and more complicated, I think, as we go on, but it's not easy, so appreciate everyone's attention.
Curriculum update.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As part of our curriculum update tonight, we have two items. The first one should be relatively quick. On the board agenda and in your updates, we've shared the 23-24 test security procedures. That's something at this time of year, every year, we update and ask you to approve as a board. So there is a resolution tonight. The test security procedures are really just a local set of procedures that we adopt that are in compliance with the state's updated test security procedures. So the good news is there were no changes from last year from the state. So essentially the 23-24 test security procedures are the same as the ones that we adopted last year. So are there any questions on that before I move on? Okay, great. Well, tonight, and Mr. Wesney alluded to this, and I think you've heard it a couple times, I have the honor of discussing our progress in our strategic plan in the first year of the implementation. And, you know, whereas John focused on, Mr. Wesney focused on the mission, vision, some of those core principles, some general overviews, I'm going to dig in a little bit into the 5 focus areas and some of the things that came out of that. Really, my goal tonight is to just highlight a couple things that came out of each area, and then maybe one goal. There are multiple goals for each area, but just one goal for moving forward. If you'd like to see the full plan, it is on the website, and we've provided copies of that in the past for the group, but I'm happy to provide anything that you would have. As I go through this tonight, you'll see I'm going to be in a lot of people's lanes, everybody from every part of our operation. But, you know, I think it goes to just show how much of a comprehensive plan this is and how many people have been working on it. And so speaking about that, just a real quick review. Back in the 21-22 school year, so we're going back a couple years now, we assembled about 60 plus people to be part of our design team. And that design team for our strategic plan included teachers and administrators and parents and community leaders. And we really embarked on creating a 5-year strategic plan that the district would use for those over those 5 years. During that design phase, we started in January. We actually partnered with the Hamilton County ESC, who had a service there, and we knew some of the people that were working there. We started gathering feedback from focus groups, about 250 stakeholders in those focus groups that included a group of students and multiple groups of parents, staff, administrators. After we received that feedback, we brought that to the design team that I just presented there, and we really got to work for basically the first semester of the 21-22 school year. After that, the second part of that school year, we refined that, and so when we made it to the summer of 22, we had our strategic plan in place. We had shared that with the board, and you know, the central office team really started working with our administrative staff on what that implementation would look like. So that brings us to the beginning of last school year, August through May, where we implemented our strategic plan. We took the goals, we took the things we said we were going to try to do, and we started working on those throughout the school year. This summer, we reflected on those accomplishments. We reviewed a lot of information about what we had accomplished or not accomplished, and we refreshed our goals for the beginning of this school year. And so that was a lot of the work that the central office team did with our administrators this summer, and unveiled really what is the new strategic plan for the school year. So I want to talk really quickly about each of the 5 focus areas of the strategic plan. I do want to say that Ms. Colopy and I will be here next month to talk with you about the state report card. Everything to this point has been preliminary, so we're actually pretty excited about what we're seeing as far as how the school year went last year. But and that's a big part of our strategic plan. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk tonight a little bit more about I think the other pieces that set the conditions for that growth to happen. So that's outlined. So the first area that I'd like to talk about is our teaching and learning, and our strategic plan defines that as supporting growth of the whole learner academically, intellectually, and emotionally through safe environments and evidence-based practices. So just a couple highlights, and again, we have a lot of things to celebrate here, but I want to draw your attention to some of the work that we did last year out of this area. Our elementary staff really worked a lot and spent a lot of time on our MTSS process. MTSS is multi-tiered systems of support, and simply put, it's a way to look at how we can effectively support all students, but through that systemic work, we can also identify special needs and students that have exceptional needs. And so that process takes a lot of organization, takes a lot of understanding, and our elementary and special ed staff really worked to establish those processes. Also under teaching and learning last year, we did have the goal of creating the portrait of an elk, and you can see that on the slides there. A couple members of our board were part of that work, and was exciting. Again, as Mr. Wesney stated, that the objective of that work was to look at the future. Moving into the 21st century, what competencies do our students, what do we need to be working on with our students to ensure their success in the 21st century? So those competencies were identified as adaptability, communication, critical thinking, empathy, and tech literacy. And so the goal last year was to simply create this, and we went through a process similar to the strategic plan with about 80 stakeholders that were there putting input into this, including students, and generated a guiding document that we'll be using this year to help us make some decisions. One of the goals that I think we would like to highlight for the 23-24 school year is that, as we are constantly doing, we are really focusing on strengthening our practices around understanding, interpreting data to help us make decisions for students. It's the 21st century. We have a lot of tools now that just weren't at our disposal even a decade ago. We have a lot of real-time information about our students, and how do we leverage that to help? The second focus area was leading and innovating, which we define as taking risks and improving one's community while encouraging others as they do the same. A lot of the work in this area we were able to capitalize on in the curriculum office. We established curriculum teams that are teacher leader teams that really help us, that we meet with regularly to help us identify needs of our staff, of our students, talk about innovating, talk about what it is that our teachers need in the form of professional development. So that has been very vital to this leading and innovating area. We have partnered with Character Strong now to help us with our portrait of a graduate and the implementation of that. Character Strong has also been with the elementary school and helping them implement their MTSS process. So we're excited to partner with Character Strong. They do a very good job of saying, okay, you say you want to build adaptability in students. How are we going to know if we're doing that? What do students need to be feeling and doing and experiencing in order for that to happen? What are the experiences teachers need to be providing? And what professional development do teachers need to help foster that? So they kind of hold us to our own words and run processes with us to talk about how we move forward. One of the themes that you'll see probably in this slide and then the next is a student-focused goal for this year, which is to increase our opportunities for student innovation. I think our student board reps are a good example of that, although they've been around for a while. How do we grow this and continue to grow opportunities for students to be leaders and innovate and have their voices heard? The third area of our strategic plan that we've really done a lot of work in is diversifying and including, again, defined as incorporating all voices that encompass our diverse community to strengthen every aspect of our mission. A lot of work's happened here. One of the things that I wanted to point out was that last year, and something that we've reported to this board on, was the 25 different events that our Elks Express participated in. If you remember, the Elks Express is kind of our mobile classroom that was made possible by a donation from Fuyao. We have been taking that into the community and doing all kinds of events, everything from summer reading to school kickoffs with puzzles and games for students, to hosting events where we took the Elks Express into the community to help families fill out the FAFSA. So for their students, and the FAFSA again is the free application for federal student aid that students fill out for financial aid for college. So we had record number of families fill that out last year, and it was helped by these efforts. The other two things in diversifying and including that I'd like to point out were both actually funded by a grant that we received called the Diversifying the Education Profession Grant. It was a competitive grant that we were awarded from the state. But that grant allowed us to support the third year of our mentor program. We've been mentoring students of color at local universities who are interested in education. Last year we had 16 students that we supported through that program, all funded through the grant. And then more recently, the Tangible Equity Workshop, which we had author Colin Seal here from Think Law, had about 200 staff members who were able to participate in that. It was a very powerful day. So that was all important work in this that we believe falls into this area. For the 23-24 school year, again, we want to continue to increase opportunities to include student voice in what we're doing. I think when we talk about including, one of the simplest things we can do, and it's something I think that this board and our administrative staff and our teachers embrace, is just listening. I think it's that simple. And so how, providing that opportunity to listen to student voice. The fourth area is communicating and understanding, sharing information vital to the building trust, defining ways to measure our impact, celebrating our successes, and learning from our challenges. Kudos to Sarah. She's done a ton of work in this area. What has come out of this in the past year is a redesign of our website. I know she put a lot of time and energy in listening to feedback from our stakeholders, parents, how to make that more easy to navigate. And then Parrott Square, which has been a real game changer when it comes to communicating with our families and our different groups. So a lot of great stuff has come out of that. With the help of Mr. Morgan this year, this gets into the kind of more the understanding piece. We're working on developing what we're calling data dashboards that will give our teachers more real-time information, easily accessible about how their students are doing in different areas, and our administrators, so that we can be more proactive in intervention and identifying students' maybe different needs. So that's a pretty exciting development from this year. And so the last area for my report tonight is resourcing and supporting, providing support structures necessary to sustain and maximize growth. I think when we talk about this, we often think of this as kind of being in the business area, the maybe human resource, and then also the treasurer's office, but obviously something we all contribute to. Pretty excited to say that, again, we were awarded the Excellence in Financial Reporting Award. That came from the Government Finance Officers Association. So that is something that in the last year has been something we can celebrate. The development of, or the formation of, the Master's Facilities Committee that Mr. Kogel has spearheaded has been a great place to get feedback and input from our community and our stakeholders. And just to highlight a goal for this year, obviously, I think as represented by Laura's presentation prior to this, collaborative, responsible, and transparent budgeting. It's something that we all work on weekly, regularly, at all of our meetings we're concerned with. So with that, that concludes my report on some of the updates from the strategic plan. I will say, I think it goes without saying that, or maybe it should go with saying that, thanks goes to this board, our parents, our community, our teachers, our administrators, and our students for allowing all this, or doing this work, supporting this work, and helping with all this work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Great report. Next, business office update.
Thank you and good evening. I've tried to keep you updated throughout the summer and just kind of keep you informed on the projects that have been taking place. One of the ones that we discussed in July, but it's kind of wrapped up now for the school year. So far, we've laid just over 6,000 square yards of flooring at the schools we've had listed there. There's a couple other projects we'd like to have completed maybe over break, but we're trying to hit and touch base in a number of schools and make sure that we hit a number of areas that need some help and some support. Here's one, probably our largest project of the summer by far, is at Watts Middle School. This is the transition as you're looking into the library there, kind of a before and after picture. They don't line up exactly right, but there's you can kind of see the difference there. This is an area that, you know, numerous stains, numerously worn out, had been part of the building for over 20 years, and so this was a huge upgrade, and the staff and the students there are very appreciative of that. Here's just a couple of additional projects at Stingley, and then again at PVN. We discussed this briefly back in July, but have everything wrapped up at this point now. The next is the asphalt. So we've done asphalt projects at the football stadium. Part of that was to repair some of the work that we've done with that electrical project that we had to get done last December. Some projects at Alumni Stadium. At Tower Heights was basically the entire area around the school was redone. Weller was the back parking lot. John Hole, we've done a couple projects there. There's a front part in the front parking lot, as well as we made an accessible path for a student there that is in a wheelchair. So we've developed a path through the gravel so that student can make it to the playground area. And then we patched a number of spots at transportation as well. And so just a couple of images here of those projects that we've completed. The next project is one that Mr. Wesney started here, but it's just a road update. So we've had some delays in this project throughout this. Right now, there's kind of an unexpected delay that is taking place with some land acquisition. Nothing to do with us, but with the city of Centerville, working with Dimco Gray, that company, and trying to purchase some land. But we are still on track for bidding. In late fall, the city of Centerville will be out to bid for this project with a start time in early spring of 2024. The completion, as we began, was looking at the fall of 24 prior to the start of the school year. They're looking at pushing that back a little bit, probably more during the fall once school is actually in session. But right now we have plans in place to start looking at that back parking lot here at the high school, start looking at what it would take to make some two-way traffic back there. We've had some preliminary work with Levin Porter on this project. Mr. Wesney, Mr. Carroll, Mr. Dom, and Mr. Trick have all provided input and suggestions, and working with Levin Porter on what that would take. And so right now there's just an extension that will need to take place, but again, a little bit delayed, but still on track. As we talked about, I think it was in February of this year, we talked about a land swap there between Lot D and the area that's kind of in green and yellow there is an extension of Dimco Way. That's the piece of land and piece of property that the city of Centerville is working on making that purchase there. So it'd be the part there to the north and on the screen to the top right corner that's surrounded in yellow and green. Next on the list is bust estimates, and this is, I showed you this slide in July to just look at the prices that Mr. Wesney paid in his last year as the business manager to what we're looking at right now. And so the 72 passenger conventional from Rush in 2021 was $96,630. That price has jumped up to $133,576, and that's with a $2,000 discount that they're offering Centerville right now, in addition to the co-op prices that we're getting if we purchase. It was prior to August 1st, but we pushed that back to September 1st. The next, the conventional, same bus, but with a lift to make that for students with wheelchair needs. That price you can see has gone up from $105,000 to $142,000, and then the transit, the 84 passenger Bluebird has gone up from $123,000 to $136,000. Again, that's a $2,500 discount. And between 2021 and 2022, we made the change from a rear engine to a front engine, and so that was a $22,000 savings per bus. And so again, looking at ways to restore our fleet and to continue to update our fleet, but still do so in a cost-effective manner. So right now we have 120 buses in our fleet. You try to rotate somewhere in that 15, 16, 17 year time frame. Our buses are traveling about 6,000 miles per day. And so between the buses that we have on the road, they're traveling about 6,000 miles per day. And so for this year, asking for a total of 8 buses, 2 of the 72 passenger conventional from Rush for the $263,152, 1 72 passenger conventional with lift for $142,080, and then 5 of the 84 passenger transits from Cardinal for $694,540. And that total cost is $1,089,772. Majority of that money will come from the PI fund. We did receive an insurance settlement from an issue that took place back in July of 22. Because it was an insurance settlement, we had to deposit that money into the general fund, and so $140,000 of this will come from the general fund, but the rest of this will come from the PI fund.
Have we taken delivery of last year's bus purchases yet?
We have not. We have not. So we have about $900,000 out standing right now that we have appropriated for buses. They're about a year out right now, and so we approved that in December and have ordered those, and the anticipation is those are here right around winter break or early December. Part of the reason that the purchasing co-op has decided to move this process up is because that process is taking so long, and so if we order now, the plan would be to have those prior to the start of the 24-25 school year.
So they're still looking at about a year out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Chuck, just talking about buses real quick. I know in the news there's been a whole issue, obviously, with the bus and the student that passed away and seatbelt issues. We looked at this years ago, and we had people come in and do evaluations of it to see if seatbelts were effective and if we added seatbelts to this. And maybe I'm wrong, you can correct me, but most of the studies have shown that the seatbelts have higher risk for the kids, not so much in terms of being in the seatbelt, but if there was a fire, if there was an accident, getting the kids out of seatbelts and out of the buses quickly was a higher risk than an accident from the school bus without seatbelts. So the majority of studies show that you probably don't want the seatbelts, which is hard to imagine mentally, because obviously they save lives, but we do not have seatbelts in here, and I think the general majority is that they don't have them.
That's correct. The buses that we would be purchasing, buses we purchased last year, do not have seatbelts. Currently, the Ohio, that is the recommendation by the pupil transportation, is that there are no seatbelts on the bus. That is their recommendation currently, yes.
Do the smaller ones, the smaller passenger buses also with no seatbelts?
The vans that we have, yes, they
all
do
have
have
seatbelts.
seatbelts. That's correct. Yes,
Right.
that's correct.
Okay.
only the buses like we're talking about here
Yeah.
today.
So again, our decision not to have them is based on research and studies right now.
The likelihood of
Yeah.
of a fire, it's much greater than
Right.
than some of the other risks. Yes.
Right.
And there's been plenty of studies on that
Yeah.
over and over, and as we found out.
Right. Thank you.
Have been. Yes. Last but not least, Xenia. In Xenia, they're starting a new community STEAM school. It's a STEM school. We have 4 students that will be attending there, which will impact 3 families. They, again, first year for this school, they've just requested transportation in early August is when Andy received that information. And so with some of the other schools that we have in the Xenia area, we're looking to add them to the in lieu of payment versus providing transportation. And so on the agenda tonight is a resolution to approve that as well. Questions about anything?
No, thank you.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks.
All righty, moving on in the agenda, treasurer's recommendations. Consider approving the July 23 financial statements, monthly cash reconciliations, then and now purchase orders approved by administration, certified by the treasurer and supported by the board resolution totaling $49,642.88.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Schreier?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Next, consider approving the minutes of the following Board of Education meetings, July 24th and August 21st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Schreier?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Consider approving the purchases and sales of commercial paper and bankers' acceptances and the income earned from commercial paper and bankers' acceptances from 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Would you like to
Yes.
give a quick explanation?
Sure.
So we're not just, it's not,
Yeah.
it's on
Yes,
paper.
yes. So this is an audit compliance piece that we do once a year. Commercial paper is an investment tool that we are allowed to invest in by revised code, but along with that, I have to present that information to you from the prior year. So this is just meeting audit compliance for our investments.
Okay, thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Schreier?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Next, superintendent recommendations. Schedule A is the listing of certificated and classified resignations. Superintendent recommends the accepting of resignations as listed on Schedule A. I'm going to read most of these. The superintendent recommends the employment, change of employment status, or change of contract status for the certificated personnel listed on Schedule B for the salaries, programs, and on the effective dates given. Recommends the employment or change of employment status for the support staff personnel listed on Schedule C for the salaries, programs, and on the effective dates given. Recommends the employment of personnel listed on Schedules D and D1 for supplemental contracts or extra duty assignments, and recommends the granting of leaves of absence for the personnel listed on Schedule E for the reason and on the dates given.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Schreier?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Next, superintendent recommends the employment of the personnel listed on Schedule D2 for supplemental contracts or extra duty assignments. Call the roll, please. I'm sorry. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Abstain.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Schreier?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Next, superintendent recommends the employment of the personnel listed on Schedule D3 for supplemental contracts or extra duty assignments.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Abstain?
Mr. Schreier?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Next, consider approving the 24-25 school calendar previously discussed and voted on by the Centerville Classroom Teachers Association.
So moved.
Second.
You want to comment on anything?
Just one brief comment. You know, we shared the calendar with the board. Obviously, CCTA took the 2 options back and voted on it. We decided just to do one calendar now because we're going into negotiations. There's some things in the calendar that we would like to look at. with CCTA moving forward. So we just did one calendar at a time versus two, and this is the 24-25 school year calendar.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Schroyer?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Consider approving the 23-24 test security procedures required by the Ohio Revised Code and Administrative Code 3301-13-01.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Schroyer?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Next, please consider a resolution to declare transportation impractical for certain identified students as presented pursuant to the requirements of the Ohio Revised Code 3327 and the procedures set forth by the Ohio Department of Education. The resolution follows careful evaluation of all other available options prior to consideration of impracticality.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Schroyer?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Consider accepting bids through the Southwest Ohio Educational Purchasing Council and approving the lowest and best bid for the purchase of the following Rush International and Cardinal Bluebird buses. 5 84-passenger FE Bluebird Transit without luggage compartments for a total of $684,540. 1 72-passenger Rush International Conventional with lift for a total of $142,080. And 2 72-passenger Rush International Conventional buses for a total of $263,540 for a total purchase of $1,089,772.
Moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Schroyer?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Any final comments regarding past or old business in the Board of Education? No? All right. Next, do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Schroyer?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Happy